Hello and welcome to the Night Watch live broadcast edition, where we will provide breaking news from around the world, and we'll dig in a couple areas, specifically those where we have quite a bit of a subscriber base, but we'll definitely touch on news that hopefully will be relevant and meaningful to everyone. Our goal is news without bias, news without political spin, just pure updates that you can count on being accurate and complete and without any type of skewed presentation. No fake news allowed here. So let's get started. So first, some updates just to talk a little bit about things unfolding around the world. There is a story that use of virus tracing apps should be voluntary and not mandatory. That's coming out of the European Union. So the European Commission will urge EU governments on Wednesday to use COVID-19 contact tracing apps on a voluntary basis as part of a package of measures aimed at lifting border restrictions and reviving the European Union's tourism and travel industries. Countries are rushing to develop mobile tracing apps, hoping that the smartphone technology could help to reopen borders without unleashing a second wave of the pandemic. That in turn has triggered concerns about privacy breaches and government surveillance long after the virus crisis has eased. And we have talked about this on some episodes lately. There has been quite a bit of concern over that. The apps use Bluetooth short-range wireless to identify those who have come into contact with people infected with the virus. The Commission, which is the EU executive, sought to allay such fears, saying that access to transport services should also not be subjected to the use of such apps. Contact tracing and warning measures, for example, with the use of mobile apps, could be used on a voluntary basis by passengers to detect and interrupt infection chains and reduce the risk of further transmission as long as transmission risks persist, said a Commission document seen by Reuters. So that's an interesting update. Just had a couple different updates come in just now. German Interior Minister Seehofer says they think we can have free travel again from 15th of June. So that's breaking news just in the last second. Hopefully from June 15 onward, unrestricted travel in Germany is what is being said now. So the Interior Minister says Germany wants free travel in the EU from June 15th and thinks it can be done from June 15th onward, which would be certainly good news. Also, Seehofer says they have agreed with France and Austria that we will ease border controls from 16th of May. So that's some breaking news that's just in that's quite interesting and encouraging. Emirates plans scheduled flights from May 21 to 9 cities, so that's good to see some airline routes resuming. From May 21, plans to operate scheduled flight services from Dubai to London Heathrow, Frankfurt, Paris, Milan, Madrid, Chicago, Toronto, Sydney, and Melbourne, it said in a statement on Wednesday. It will also offer connections in Dubai for travelers between Britain and Australia, it said. So that's some good news coming in. And again, just mentioning that the German government plans to relax border controls from Saturday. Some updates out of Oman. Oman is planning to cut the 2020 armed forces budget by greater than 5%, said the state news agency. Some news in from America. Trump Senate ally seeks China sanctions over the COVID-19 probe. So a prominent U.S. Republican senator proposed legislation on Tuesday that would authorize the U.S. president to impose far-reaching sanctions on China if it fails to give a full account of events leading to the outbreak of the novel coronavirus. Senator Lindsey Graham, a close ally of President Donald Trump, said he was convinced that had it not been for the deception, quote, by China's ruling Communist Party, the virus would not be in the United States, where it has killed more than 80,000 Americans. Graham said China had refused to allow investigators to study how the outbreak started and added in a statement, quote, I'm convinced China will never cooperate with a serious investigation unless they are made to do so. Trump critics, including some former officials, academics, and columnists, have said that while China has much to answer for, clearly, the U.S. administration appears to be seeking to deflect attention from what they see as a slow U.S. response to the crisis. Okay, moving on. Saudi Arabia's aviation sector needs direct state support, lobbyists are saying. Definitely support needed in that area. The International Air Transportation Association, IATA, on Wednesday urged the Saudi Arabian government to provide financial support to its aviation sector. Saudi Arabia should consider providing financial aid to airlines and airports and think about reducing, waiving, or deferring government-imposed taxes and fees, it said in a statement. Airlines in Saudi Arabia are estimated to lose $7.5 billion this year due to the coronavirus pandemic that has crushed travel demand, the lobby said. Okay, so moving on to Japan. Japan considers lifting the state of emergency for 39 prefectures. So the Japanese government is considering lifting the coronavirus state of emergency in 37 of the country's 47 prefectures, public broadcaster NHK reported on Wednesday. So some good news coming out of Japan. Out of Poland, an update. Poland will keep borders closed for foreigners until June 12th. So those of you planning to go to Poland, if you're a foreigner, can't go there until after June 12th. Poland will extend its strict border controls until June 12 due to the coronavirus pandemic. Its Interior Ministry said on Wednesday, Poland closed its borders to foreigners in March to stop the spread of the coronavirus and has extended the restriction 4 times since then. Polish citizens, diplomats, foreigners with the legal right to live in Poland, that's important, and foreign professional drivers can enter Poland at select checkpoints. So there is some flexibility there. Okay, so in more news, top U.S. diplomat Pompeo is on a one-day visit to Israel. And here's some updates there. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo praised Israel on Wednesday for sharing information during global efforts to combat the coronavirus pandemic and took another swipe at China over what he said was its lack of transparency. U.S. President Donald Trump and his senior officials have engaged in a war of words with China, where the new coronavirus first emerged, saying it failed to inform the world fast enough about the dangers it posed and muzzled those who raised the alarm. Beijing strongly denies the charges. Okay, a few more stories just in. More from Germany. German Interior Minister announces from 15th of May, all border crossings will be open with France, Switzerland, and Austria. So that appears to be official at this time. Also regarding Denmark and Norway, Germany's willing. A lot of news coming in from Germany right now. And as mentioned, hoping for free travel again from 15th of June onwards. Okay, so moving along to some more news. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to post those. We'll do our best to respond as quickly as possible to any questions you may have. Okay, so soccer update. Belgium waits for final decision on league season. Belgium is ready for soccer. Belgian football is anticipating a stormy end to the season on Friday when key decisions about the campaign are finally decided in the boardroom. While play for the rest of the season has been canceled in the wake of COVID-19, the pandemic, decisions must still be made over whether to declare a champion, promotion, and relegation, as well as places in next season's European club competition. So we're waiting on that at this time. Also news today, Malaysia reports 37 new coronavirus cases, 2 deaths. Ireland may introduce compulsory quarantine for travelers. That's under consideration now in Ireland for a 14-day quarantine period for people arriving in the country to replace the current system in which 14 days of isolation is merely advised. It may become compulsory. So moving back real quick to Malaysia, that brings the case with 37 new cases up to 6,779 in total with 2 new deaths. Okay, so the Japan government is consulting a panel of experts about a possible lifting of the state of emergency. That's still under consideration at this time. And Germany has just jumped in with some more breaking news from the interior minister that controls can be reimposed if there are new outbreaks, as we're starting to see some outbreaks reemerge in different parts of the world. So we're just going to dig in a little bit to some areas where we have a concentration of a lot of subscribers over recent days and weeks. Moving on to the Philippines. So today, the Philippines recorded 21 new coronavirus deaths and 268 more infections. So the Philippines Health Ministry on Wednesday recorded 21 more deaths and 260 additional infections, as mentioned. In a bulletin, the ministry said the total deaths from the novel coronavirus have reached 772, while confirmed cases have risen to 11,618. But 145 more patients have recovered, which is great news, increasing total recoveries to 2,251. Just to chime in for a moment, there was a point where there were more deaths than recoveries, and it's great to see the Philippines reach the point where there are far more recoveries than deaths. In fact, the ratio of deaths to recoveries at the very beginning of the outbreak was a bit headed in the wrong direction, but now that's really turned around. It looks like about a 3-to-1 ratio of recoveries to deaths, which is really great to see. Okay, more updates from the Philippines. AirAsia extends domestic and foreign flight cancellations till the end of May, so there'll be no AirAsia flights anytime soon. And meanwhile, Cebu Pacific extends domestic foreign flight cancellations to end of May as well. So it's a bit difficult to fly at this point. Some more related news out of Malaysia. Malaysian oil exploration vessels leave the South China Sea waters after standoff. Let's dig into the story for a moment. An oil exploration vessel contracted by Malaysian state energy company Petronas that was involved in a standoff with a Chinese survey vessel in the South China Sea left the disputed waters on Tuesday, 3 security sources and the vessel operator said. Petronas has been conducting exploration activities near an area claimed by Malaysian and Vietnam as well as by China since late last year. In mid-April, the Chinese government survey vessel started operating in the area, escorted by Coast Guard and China maritime militia vessels. 3 American warships and an Australian frigate conducted a joint exercise near the site of Petronas operations amid the standoff last month. So that's an ongoing challenge, obviously. Let's move on a little bit to some other regions of the world. One moment, please, while we dig into some more news to share with you live at this time. Okay, so here we go, some news. Shifting gears for a moment here. Okay, so let's look at some breaking news that's coming in out of India. Apparently there's an update coming in, a very important update that was announced via tweet and address at 1600, which would be 4 o'clock local time on Wednesday, regarding some major news that's coming out of India. India is providing $266 billion to boost the pandemic-hit economy. That's also coming in out of India at this time. And as we all have seen, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on sports events around the world has been absolutely enormous. Major sports events around the world that are in the process of restarting or have been rescheduled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Soccer is one of the ones that comes to mind. For an overview of the state of play in Europe soccer leagues amid the coronavirus outbreak, here's some updates. So Major League Soccer players return to voluntary training on May 6th. So there's some ongoing training. The 2020 K-League season kicked off on May 8th behind closed doors. Euro 2020 and Copa America were postponed. The 2 tournaments will now be staged from June 11th to July 11th, 2021. The Euro 2021 Women's Championship has been pushed back to July 6th to 31st, 2022. So a lot of disruption in the sports world. Okay, one more quick update of headlines. England tiptoes out of lockdown as economy dives. So that is the current story just breaking. Some are being urged to go back to work. The UK's economy shrank by a record 5.8% in March. Some workplaces are revving up. Schools are still closed. There's a stay alert message that's deemed to be confusing by many. So England tentatively began easing its coronavirus lockdown on Wednesday, with some people who cannot do their jobs at home urged to return to work as stark economic data showed the disastrous impact of the pandemic. The worst hit country in Europe, with more than 40,000 deaths from COVID-19, according to official data, Britain has been in extensive lockdown since March 23rd. As of Wednesday morning, people in manufacturing and certain other sectors were being asked to return to work if they could. So there is some encouragement there from the government to get back to work at this point. Okay. So let's take a look at an update out of Taiwan. This is out of Taipei just recently. Lives have been lost in the coronavirus pandemic because of the World Health Organization WHO exclusion of Taiwan and refusal to allow it to share best practices and information, a top U.S. government commission on China said. The United States has repeatedly clashed with China over its refusal to allow non-WHO member Taiwan, claimed by China as one of its provinces, full access to the body, becoming another source of rising tension between Washington and Beijing. Self-ruled Taiwan says China and the WHO have conspired for political purposes to lock it out of key meetings, that the WHO has not responded to its request for the coronavirus information, and that the WHO, that's the World Health Organization, has previously misreported Taiwan's virus case numbers. The WHO and China strongly dispute this, saying Taiwan has been given all of the help it needs, but that only China has the right to represent the democratic island of, as far as the World Health Organization. In a report released on Tuesday, the U.S. Congress, U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission said Taiwan's exclusion contributed to critical delays in timely receipt and accurate guidance for WHO members in the early stages of the outbreak. Had the WHO allowed Taiwan's health experts to share information and best practices in early January, governments around the world could have had more complete information on which to base their public health policies, it said. One of Taiwan's main complaints is that the WHO ignored its request for information in late December on the potential for human-to-human transmission. The WHO has said in an email received from Taiwan made no mention of human-to-human transmission. So there's quite a bit of misinformation, dispute, and concern going on between the World Health Organization, the US, Taiwan, and of course, China. So as of now, taking one more quick glance for any breaking news to share. For the moment, I think we are all caught up. So there's quite a bit of news coming out and some good news coming as far as many states and many governments we're seeing around the world are beginning to move towards a transition towards reopening economies. People are going back to work, which is great. And there are several lockdowns being eased up in many countries. A lot of the Philippines, for example, is moving from a state of enhanced quarantine, which is called ECQ, to a state of general community quarantine called GCQ as of I believe that's May 16. So that's coming up quite soon. Many areas will be allowed to have a relaxation of a lot of the restrictions. And we're also seeing that in parts of Europe, in America, in other parts of Asia. I believe in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is quite close, as I've heard, to having some reopening as well. So economies are trying very hard to bounce back. There has been some reemergence of the virus in areas such as in China, and there have been steps taken to mitigate the resurgence of the virus. One more update just came in, which I'll go over with you briefly. Okay, so this is out of Hong Kong. and it's regarding video games. Let's cover this one real quick. High demand for video games during the coronavirus pandemic lifted first quarter revenue at Chinese gaming and social media giant Tencent Holdings by 26%, beating forecasts. The world's largest gaming firm by revenue said on Wednesday that its profit for the 3 months through March was 28.9 billion yuan, which is $4 billion US dollars, ahead of an analyst average estimate of 23.84 billion yuan. So basically, gaming is booming, as is streaming media such as Netflix. Okay, one more update just in. The European Union won't tell airlines to leave middle seat empty as travel resumes. Interesting. There's been some talk about what to do about those middle seats. So this just in seconds ago. The European Union's executive will say on Wednesday that airlines will not have to leave the middle seat empty, but passengers will have to wear masks on board and in airports as travel amid the coronavirus crisis gradually resumes. The non-binding recommendations are part of a wider set of proposals to salvage the ailing tourism industry, which in normal times represents 10% of the EU's economic output and employs almost 12% of the bloc's workplace. So that's interesting regarding the middle seat. Not sure how you feel about that, but on a long haul flight right now, being in the middle seat, I certainly would be quite conscious of those sitting on both sides of me. The middle seat sure would be nice to be empty, but it appears for various reasons that won't be enforced, at least out of the EU just now. So that's it for the updates as of now. Look forward to more updates soon. Please send us any questions if you have them, and thank you for joining the Night Watch. Goodbye.